F is a quadratic function given by f of x maps to 3x squared minus 7x plus 9. Without making a table of values, draw a rough sketch of the curve. So first of all, we know that our graph is going to be U-shaped because we have a positive x squared. If this was minus x squared, it would be N-shaped. So we start off by swapping f of x for y. So we have y equals 3x squared minus 7x plus 9. And then what we're going to do is use the method for completing the square. So we start off by putting all the x's on the left and any terms without an x on the right. So the 3x squared comes over the equal sign, becomes minus 3x squared. The minus 7x comes over the equal sign, becomes plus 7x. The y comes over the equal sign, becomes minus y. And the plus 9 stays on the right hand side, so it stays as plus 9. So we got all the x's on the left. Now we don't want minus 3x squared, we want positive 3x squared, so we need to change our signs. Minus 3x squared becomes positive 3x squared, plus 7x becomes minus 7x, minus y becomes y, plus 9 becomes minus 9. Next we're going to divide across by 3. So 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared, minus 7x divided by 3 is minus 7 over 3x, y divided by 3 is y over 3, minus 9 divided by 3 is minus 3. So now that we have a positive x squared, we can then complete our steps for completing the square. So the next step of completing the square is to add the square of half the coefficient of x to each side. So our x term is minus 7 over 3, x, and minus 7 over 3 divided by 2 is minus 7 over 6. So we're going to add the square of minus 7 over 6 to both sides. So we add minus 7 over 6 squared to the left of the equal sign, and we add minus 7 over 6 squared to the right of the equal sign. It's really important that we use brackets. Next, we're going to factorize the left-hand side. So since we have an x squared here, we have x in the front of each bracket. Since this is a plus, both of these signs are the same. Since this is a minus, both signs are minus. And the factors of minus 7 over 6 squared are going to be minus 7 over 6 and minus 7 over 6. So we've minus 7 over 6 in the back of each bracket. And minus 7 over 6 minus 7 over 6 gives us minus 7 over 3. Then on the right hand side we still have y over 3. And then minus 3 plus minus 7 over 6 squared will give us minus 59 over 36. We're going to simplify the left hand side now. Minus x minus 7 over 6 multiplied by x minus 7 over 6 is x minus 7 over 6 squared. And we still have y over 3 minus 59 over 36 on the right of the equal sign. Next we want to get y on its own. So y over 3 is going to come over the equal sign and become minus y over 3. X minus 7 over 6 squared comes over the equal sign and becomes minus x minus 7 over 6 squared. And the minus 59 over 36 stays on the right hand side, so that does not change sign. So we have minus y over 3, but we want positive y over 3, so we need to change the signs. So minus y over 3 becomes y over 3. Minus 59 over 36 becomes 59 over 36. And minus x minus 7 over 6 squared becomes plus x minus 7 over 6 squared. Next we need to multiply across by 3 because we don't want y over 3, we want y. And y over 3 multiplied by 3 will give us y. So we multiply across by 3. 59 over 36 multiplied by 3 is going to be 59 over 12. And then x minus 7 over 6 squared multiplied by 3 is going to be 3 bracket x minus 7 over 6 squared. Now, once we have our equation in this format, we can straight away pick out our minimum point on our graph. So the minimum point on a U-shaped graph is the lowest point on the graph. And since we are interested in the lowest point on our graph, we are interested in the least possible y value. And the least possible y value for this equation is going to be 59 over 12. Because the lowest value that this could be is going to be 0. Because anything squared is going to give us a positive answer. So the lowest value that this can end up working out to be is going to be 0. Therefore, the lowest possible value of y is going to be 59 over 12. So 59 over 12 is going to be the minimum point on our graph on the y-axis. And in order for this to be 0, we need what's inside the bracket to be 0. And since we have something minus 7 over 6, in order to make what's inside the bracket 0, this needs to be positive 7 over 6. So if we let x equal 7 over 6, we have 7 over 6 minus 7 over 6, which is 0. And that would be 0 squared, which would still be 0. And it would be multiplied by 3, which would still give us 0. So when x is equal to 7 over 6, we'd actually have y equals 59 over 12 plus 3 times 0 squared, which would just cancel out, leaving us with 59 over 12. So our minimum point on our graph, our U-shaped graph, is going to be 7 over 6, comma, 59 over 12. An x value of 7 over 6 and a y value of 59 over 12. And we also know another point on our graph, which is going to be 0, 9. Because if we go back to the very start and we have a look at our equation, we see that we have plus 9 as our constant at the end, which is going to be our y-intercept. So we know that 0, 9 is the point at which our graph crosses the y-axis. So in general, once we have written our equation in this format, whatever value we have here, the x value of the minimum point of our graph is going to be this number with the opposite sign. So in this case, this number is minus 7 over 6, so our x value is positive 7 over 6. And our y value will always be this number here. So 59 over 12 is our y value. And since we're asked to draw a rough sketch of the curve, all we need to know is our minimum point. Or if this had been a minus 3x squared or a minus x squared, it would actually be the maximum point of our graph and our y-intercept. Here's another example. Y equals 2 bracket x plus 4 squared plus 3. So if we want to find the turning point, which is either the maximum or minimum point of the graph, what we do is we label the number in front of the bracket as A, the number inside the bracket as B, and the number at the end, or the constant at the end, as C. So the turning point, which is the maximum or the minimum point, is going to be minus B comma C. So whatever this number is here, you change the sign. So in this case, the plus 4 becomes minus 4. And the C is the number at the end, or the constant at the end, which is plus 3. Now, sometimes this number might be written in front, but it's the number that is on its own, the constant. So the turning point of this equation, either the maximum or minimum point of this equation, is minus 4, 3. And if we want to know where the graph crosses the y-axis, and we know that any graph crosses the y-axis at an x value of 0, first of all, then what we do is we take a b squared and add on c. So the a in this case is 2, the b is 4, so 2 times 4 squared, and then we add on the c, which is 3. So 4 squared is 16, and 2 times 16 is 32, and add on 3 is 35. So 0, 35 is going to be the y-intercept for this equation.